Psychology facts about women, hidden male preferences, and human behavior. Have you ever looked back on your earlier years and thought, wow, I used to think that was what really mattered? It's funny how age teaches us what youth often doesn't understand desperately. When it comes to intimacy for men and women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, the experience of love and connection becomes less about image or ego and more about meaning, care, and presence. And today we're diving into a topic that's often misunderstood, often joked about, but rarely explored with honesty. This is how 90% of women actually want to know. That statement may raise a few eyebrows, but stick with me. Because this isn't about numbers, inches, or comparisons, it's about truth, and the truth is what most women find attractive in a man's body, particularly his most private parts, changes as they grow older. What they value evolves, it deepens, and it shifts away from the things young women might be taught to focus on towards something much richer, more grounded, and far more fulfilling. Let's start there. What younger women often desire versus what more mature women actually value over time. In youth, there's a lot of influence from media, movies, and social circles. There's an emphasis on the physical, how someone looks, how they perform, what they're packing. Younger women, often with less experience, might say size matters, and in some cases, they really believe fat because that's what they've heard, what they've seen in movies, or what they've been taught to expect. But as women go through real-life relationships, marriage, motherhood, heartbreak, growth, they begin to see intimacy differently. They learn at first that physical size does not equal emotional fulfillment, that the best experiences don't come from who was biggest, but who made them feel safe, most connected, and most understood. Older women, through the ups and downs of life, start to seek something else entirely, something that has far more to do with emotional rhythm than physical reach. One major reason for this shift is hormonal change. A woman's body doesn't stay the same throughout her life. During pregnancy, for example, sensitivity can increase in some areas while decreasing in others. After giving birth, her physical comfort and emotional need change again. And then comes menopause, a major shift that affects not just hormones but sensation, lubrication, and the body's overall response to intimacy. These hormonal changes often mean that deep, aggressive penetration, once romanticized in youth, becomes uncomfortable or even painful. What's needed instead is a softer, slower, more intentional connection. This is where emotional maturity really shines. As women age, their desire becomes less about fantasy and more about feeling not just physical pleasure but emotional safety. They crave a partner who understands that foreplay isn't 5 minutes before, it's everything leading up to the moment, a kind word, a long hug, an afternoon filled with laughter. That emotional connection softens the body, opens the heart, and prepares the mind for real intimacy. It makes size far less relevant and makes presence and gentleness far more important. Now, let's talk about something that's often left out of the conversation after harmony. Mature women, what happens after is just as important as what happens during. Aftercare means cuddling, talking, simply holding each other in silence. As women grow older, they value those quiet moments more than ever. It's a reflection of how deeply they were respected, how safe they felt, and how connected they are to you. Younger women may still be figuring that out, but older women will have experienced distance, disconnecty, or unkind partners. Note that aftercare is everything. Pausing. Dorcourt continued his diggings on partner disconnection. Rhythm, these are the elements of real intimacy. As we Agethi replace the old focus on performance with something far more beautiful. When a man learns to slow down, to read her body like a language, to let go of trying to do something and instead just be there, that's when he becomes unforgettable. That's when the experience becomes so much more than physical. It becomes emotional, spiritual. Let me share a few real stories to bring this to life. A woman in her early 30s once said, "Weenie was younger. I thought bigger meant better, but now I realize the best sex I've ever had was with a man who wasn't large at all, but he was tender, he was patient, and I felt completely seen." Another woman, 48, divorced after 20 years, shared, "I used to believe what movies told me. Now I know that what I crave is in size. It's someone who actually listens to my body, someone who makes me feel safe enough to let go." A woman in her 60s said something that really stood out. "At this age, I'm not interested in being impressed. I want to be embraced. I want softness. I want warmth. I want a man who makes love with his heart, not just this body." That's the truth most men never hear, but it's the truth that matters. And these women aren't exceptions, they're reflections of a larger reality that's often ignored. You see, the penis 90% of women actually want isn't about standing out visually, it's about how it feels in the moment, how it moves in rhythm with her body, how it respects her pace, honors her needs, and meets her where she is. It's not about being longer, harder, or faster, it's about being responsive, gentle, and emotionally aware. And none of those qualities come from anatomy, they come from you. So if you've spent any part of your life worrying that you didn't measure up, let this be a quiet truth that sets you free. Women over 50 aren't looking for bigger, they're looking for better. Presents better energy, better connection. They want a man who knows how to show up fully, not just physically but emotionally, a man who takes his time, listens with his hands, who doesn't rush moment, but allows it to unfold. You don't need to compete with youth. In fact, most women your age aren't comparing you to younger men, they're comparing you to hat feels real, and real feels differential. Doesn't demand real, doesn't push real, pays attention. That's what they remember, that's what they crave, and that's what you can offer right now as you are. So when we say, this is the penis 90% of women actually want, we're really talking about the man behind it, the man who's grown enough to understand that intimacy is not about performance, it's about presence. The man was wise enough to know that connection means more than conquest, and the man who chooses to love her with patience, with rhythm, and with the deep respect she deserves. If this kind of message speaks to you, if you're ready to understand what truly moves a woman's heart and body after 50, then you're in the right place. This channel is dedicated to honest conversations, real insight, and meaningful connection. We explore female psychology, emotional bonding, and the very thing that helps you become a better, more confident, and more fulfilled man, not by chasing outdated standards, but by showing up as your truest self. Go ahead and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. When you join this community, you're not just getting more videos, you're joining a circle of men who are learning, growing, and redefining what it means to be a great partner later in life. You'll get grounded advice, thoughtful insights, and the kind of clarity that helps you connect with your confidence and deepen the relationships that matter most. Subscribe today, and let's keep walking this journey together, one honest conversation at a